in what world do you have the best player in the world on your team and you're not looking to win? Or you're like, and I know we're looking to win, but we need to be better. We have to be better. There's no way around it. We have to improve. And you know, he's signed for 2 more years, and God knows where that goes. But we have 2 years here right now. As of right now, we have 2 years, and we have to get significantly better.
The Edmonton Oilers season is done. And honestly, I'm not even that surprised. Disappointed, sure, but surprised? Not really. When you look at everything that happened this year, the injuries, the inconsistency, the same defensive problems we've been talking about for years, there was never really a clear path to a 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup final appearance. And that stings because this team has the talent. Everyone knows it. The problem is talent alone has never won a championship. Structure does. Defense does. And right now, Edmonton doesn't have enough of either. Let me start with Connor McDavid, because you can't talk about this team without talking about him. He is the best hockey player on the planet. I don't think that's debatable. But here's the thing about having the best player in the world on your roster: it creates a psychological problem that nobody really talks about openly. When Connor is on the ice, every single player, every single coach is tempted to just give him the puck and get out of the way. And honestly, who can blame them? 9 times out of 10, that feels like the right call. A former Oiler recently spoke about this, and what he described was really telling. He said that even when coaches explicitly told players not to just feed McDavid and let him freelance, it was nearly impossible to follow that instruction in practice, because Connor would demand the puck, and frankly, giving it to him always felt like the best option in the moment. That's the paradox of having an elite generational talent. His brilliance actually undermines the team's ability to function as a unit. And when you combine that with Draisaitl also operating at a superstar level, what you end up with is a team that essentially has 2 players trying to solve every problem. Everyone else starts to fade into the background. They become spectators. The offensive structure breaks down because it becomes entirely dependent on those 2 men. The rest of the roster looks disconnected because they are disconnected. They don't really have defined roles in the offensive zone. They're just waiting to see what Connor or Leon decides to do next. Now, here's where I want to be fair. Connor McDavid's desire to win is one of the things that makes him special. He plays with an intensity and urgency that very few athletes in any sport have ever matched. But that same urgency can sometimes work against him and against the team. We saw a flash of it in the Olympic gold medal game against the United States in overtime. Connor got the puck, found himself going in alone, and instead of pulling back, waiting for support, letting the play develop, he went for it on his own. He lost the puck, and shortly after, it ended up in Canada's net. Again, I'm not questioning his heart or his compete level, but that moment was a window into something the Oilers need to address. There are times when patience and structure are more valuable than individual brilliance. At his end-of-year media availability, McDavid himself said something that I think is incredibly honest and really gets to the core of the issue. He said the Oilers were an average team all year, and that when you're an average team carrying high expectations, disappointment is going to follow. That's a remarkable statement from your franchise player. He's not deflecting, he's not making excuses. He's telling you exactly what the problem is. This team, as constructed and as coached, is average at best when you take away the individual moments of genius. And average doesn't win championships. Then there's Leon Draisaitl, who, to his credit, said something in his exit interview that most players would never have the guts to say publicly. He admitted that his defensive play this year wasn't good enough. He said it slipped from where it was the year before. And then he went a step further and said he believes the entire team took a step back defensively in small but important areas. Now think about that for a second. This is one of the best defensive players in the world holding himself accountable for his defensive shortcomings. That kind of honesty is rare, and it's important because it confirms what a lot of Oilers fans have suspected for years. The defense particularly from the top players, simply isn't where it needs to be. And when your best defensive players cut corners defensively, it sends a message to everyone else on the roster. It tells them that defense is optional. It tells them that offensive opportunities are worth cheating for. That culture spreads. And before long, you've got an entire team that's conditionally committed to defending, only doing it when it's convenient, only doing it when they feel like it. That's not a championship mentality. That's a team waiting to get knocked out. Pierre Maguire shared a story about Todd McLellan that really puts all of this into context. When McLellan was coaching Edmonton, he reportedly confided his frustration to Maguire after a game. He said his players simply refused to play team defense. He said he was trying to coach it into them, and they just didn't want to do it. Now, whether you love or hate McLellan as a coach, that quote tells you something important about the culture inside that locker room. When a head coach feels helpless trying to get his players to commit to the defensive side of the game, that's a structural and cultural problem. That's not a system issue. That's a values issue. And the hard truth is this: if McDavid and Draisaitl continue to prioritize offensive opportunities over defensive responsibility, the rest of the team will follow their lead. Stars set the tone. Always have. If the two best players on your team are sending the message, even unintentionally, that defense is someone else's job, everyone else on the roster absorbs that message and acts accordingly. The Oilers have been living with the consequences of that for years now. The fact that they've had as much success as they have is genuinely a testament to how extraordinary those two players are. But a second-round exit is where that approach has landed them. So, what does the path forward actually look like? I genuinely believe Edmonton has enough talent to compete for a championship. The roster isn't the problem. What they need is a structural overhaul, one that starts with McDavid and Draisaitl committing fully and publicly to a two-way game, not just in words, but in practice every single night. They need a coaching staff that has the credibility and the authority to hold even the best players accountable. And they need a goaltender who can steal games when the structure breaks down, because it will break down sometimes. That's hockey. The Oilers could genuinely be something special. Think about a team like the Canadiens at their best, structured, disciplined, everyone playing within a system, everyone trusting the process. Now imagine that framework with McDavid and Draisaitl inside it. That's a dynasty waiting to happen. But it requires buy-in from the very top. No exceptions, no shortcuts, no one getting a pass because they're a superstar. The greats who win championships, the ones who get rings, the ones whose names get engraved, they're the ones who figured out that less individual points for more team wins is the trade worth making. Edmonton needs to figure that out, and they need to figure it out soon.